Hello and welcome to another episode of the Flatback 2. No, Alistair, as we were last week with our Mandalorian reviews, we are here together because I came to watch you in your show last night. A fantastic acting performance from George and the rest of the cast of Young Frankenstein. So if you're going to be in the St Austell area, why not go and watch it? It's in Key Theatre until Saturday night.
Yep.
Get your tickets now. I think it's only like £13, £14 a ticket. It's very, very reasonable for a very good show. But we are here to talk about The Mandalorian today.
Yeah, indeed.
And finally, we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
We're getting somewhere with The Mandalorian. It's told us what the story's going to be for the rest of the series, potentially, as long as they don't go weird and do episode with the people on a different planet again. Completely randomly, like they did with the officers in episode 3, but most recent episode is a very brief rundown for everyone, including George, who can't remember it in great detail. No. We see the people of Navarro getting attacked by the pirates that we saw in episode 1. They call for help from the New Republic. The New Republic refuse to help because they haven't officially gone through the paperwork process yet. They go to the Mandalorians instead. The Mandalorians come across, save Navarro, and then are offered large amounts of land to make their new home. And then, weirdly, at the end, they decide that Bo-Katan's the new main character, and she is going to bring the Mandalorians together to retake Mandalore. So we have some direction. But what did you think of the episode in general? And what do you think going forward? Very much reduced, which I was glad. Very much reduced role for Baby Yoda this week.
Yeah, you like that, did you?
I think he's becoming too important to the running of this show. But
yeah, I like the episode. I think watching last week's episode changed my perspective of the whole show from after our podcast. Because up to our podcast that we recorded, I was quite content with what I was watching. Like it always reminded me, like when we grew up watching like TV shows or whatever, like there'll be a story, a 20-minute story.
Yeah.
You know, you got a story at the start and it's all resolved with 20 minutes happening. But when you mentioned about the overall arc of the series, it wasn't really going in one direction. I suddenly thought, oh yeah, you've got a point actually. But this, from last week's episode, it looks like we have, you know, a direction.
Which in fairness could have been the direction through the whole series. They could have said in episode 1, right, we are going to try and retake Mandalore. We're going to come together as a people. But if you want to be considered part of the Creed, you still need to go and get yourself in those bath waters on the planet. Bo-Katan could have seen the creature, the mosasaur, and then we could have gone from there. But instead, they've done 5 episodes of filler to get us to this point. So it's been quite a strange structure, but it seems that we have some direction. It was by no means a perfect episode. They have already killed off characters that they introduced in episode 1 in the pirates.
Yeah.
So they introduced this large, potentially really big villain that could have spanned across the next season, could have been the sort of antagonist for the next few seasons if the Mandalorians to continue. But they decided that they were going to sort of can that. One pirate escaped.
Yeah.
The pirates are a big part of the Spider-Verse? That's because I watched the trailer this afternoon. The Star Wars universe in the Clone Wars, which I've never watched. I don't think you've seen the Clone Wars. So for people that are watching this fresh for the first time, like me and you, the pirates have been introduced as a villain and then gotten rid of straight away. But we did also get the fact that we know Moff Gideon is still alive and is now out there somewhere.
Yeah, very true.
So Moff Gideon's going to come back, it looks like, but they've also sort of given the hint that it might be the Mandalorians that broke him free at the end of the episode.
That was a bit surprise.
That was a good surprise, though, because for the first time this season, and potentially from season 2 as well, I'm actually thinking, well, who actually did that? I'm asking a question about the Mandalorian, which I haven't done all season because it's been so obvious where everything is going.
Yeah, it's fair point.
And like I said, it wasn't a perfect episode. There were continuity errors. They're making the New Republic look really weirdly unsupportive of anyone and everyone because of the system, paperwork and hierarchy and stuff like that. And I think that there are moments of the series and the episode that are just filler in terms of like going to Coruscant and seeing the X-wing pilot just walking up to buildings. It's like, yeah, we've seen Coruscant before. Let's move along. And remember that this is an action series first and foremost. But the combat stuff on Navarro was actually pretty good with the Mandalorians fighting against the pirates in the streets.
I love the shot of the Mandalorians coming down from the plane.
Yeah,
that was great.
Yeah, awesome. Like the way that they did that, the way they shot it. The Mandalorians actually looked. What's the word I'm looking for? Competent in combat.
Yeah, that's what you said last week. You were sure
they were just making them look ridiculous against certain enemies, whereas this week they actually were tactically really good at, right, we're going to go this way, split off, go this way, we'll use the aerial combat to sort of break them off, and we'll pick them off in groups. There was one thing that really annoyed me, in that they got boxed in, so they were being attacked from behind, attacked from the front, and they were like, we've got nowhere to go, and I was like, fly.
That's so true.
You can all fly, just go up on top of the building and then shoot down at them.
That's so true.
Which they then did, 2 minutes later, some of them started flying off. But other than that, I thought it was a really good episode. I say that. It was the best episode so far in a series that I think has been largely faulted. Let's talk about Din Djarin's role in this series has been really reduced. Bo-Katan is clearly the character that they're going to lean on for the rest of this series, with the Armourer saying that Bo-Katan is the one that's going to bring the Mandalorians together, which I will say is slightly strange, because what I know about the Mandalorian lore from Clone Wars and stuff like that is that the person who holds the Darksaber is typically the leader of the Mandalorians and the one that brings them together. Who holds the Blacksaber? The Mandalorian Din Djarin. So it's very confusing as to how they've arrived at that and why Din Djarin's not the one to be doing that.
They mentioned that in season 2 anyway, don't they?
Exactly, yeah. It's a really big thing that sort of hinges, and at the start of this season, Bo-Katan is like, do you still have the Darksaber? Because that was her life's goal, was to achieve the retrieval of that Darksaber to then be able to retake Mandalore. Now they're just like, go retake Mandalore. What about the Darksaber? Yeah, but you don't need to worry about the Darksaber right now. Just go and retake Mandalore. So, like I say, we're asking questions. We're actually caring about the storyline as it goes forward. And I have to say that I'm actually looking forward to watching this week's episode for the first time this series.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it was a nice way to end the episode, the fact that the Mandalorians now have somewhere to live. And that was the whole part of their goal, was to find somewhere. So they mentioned in the episode, didn't they?
Yeah.
That their foundlings are, they're getting picked off, and so they want somewhere to have their base, and they can grow the Mandalorian life.
Yeah, to live an actual life. I think that's one of the things they mentioned is to have an actual life, to have a home rather than just having a home planet. They have somewhere they can call their home. It's a good sign that they're going to follow a narrative for the rest of the series rather than just bouncing from task to task. But I'm interested to see where it goes. One thing that I did sort of raise when I was watching it was when the X-Wing pilot comes to the cave and sort of walks up and talks to them, and then they all go and they help the people of Navarro, and then they're all stood there at the end. Where are the giant chickens that they rescued last week? Pterodactyl nests.
Oh, yeah.
Did they just leave them to die? Did they cook them and eat them? Like, what? Where were they?
That's a very good point.
No one had them. And I also did really like, and this was my biggest thing where I was like, okay, and I'll say what I said to Philippa in a moment. I'm watching it, and Navarro, they've all escaped because of the pirate attack, and they're all like scuttling out to the lava fields, and the guy stands, I can't remember his name, but the guy stands, the mayor, and he's like, don't worry, I've called the New Republic, help will come. All of you, we're going to stay here for the night. And I was like, yeah, all 12 of you. Why were there so few people that lived in that village?
Yeah.
There were like 12 people, but also he said, and he specifically said in this episode, I'm worried that the planet will fall if the pirates... Is that the only village on the whole planet?
That's a very good point, because I thought the same. I thought Navarro gets talked about a lot in this season alone, and... like you said, there was like 12 people that live on the whole planet.
Yeah.
I was just really as confused as you were.
12 people, and then those creatures that live in the trees. And if they lose that village, then they lose the whole planet. It's just really, I was like, Okay.
Maybe they ran out of extras.
Yeah, maybe they just
Tight budget.
they couldn't get people involved because season 2 and 3 have been so poor that they just went, no, I don't even want to wear a Mandalorian helmet. But overall, I thought it was a good episode. There are always going to be critiques with Star Wars content these days, and especially The Mandalorian, because it is the flagship show of Star Wars. Like, Star Wars is in the bin at the moment. If you think about Star Wars, it was one of the elite tier franchises, still could be, if it picks itself up and goes the right way in the future. But for now, it's become, and this is the worst thing about it, if you think of Star Wars, where it was and where it is now, it was the biggest movie franchise. You could bring out a movie and guarantee $1 billion. You could guarantee worldwide fanfare. Now, it's a section of a streaming service.
Yeah.
And that section of the streaming service, I don't know if you've seen this, the viewing figures are dramatically down on The Mandalorian this season. So they're actually losing viewers for The Mandalorian. Can they get it back? I don't know. That's a wider conversation for another day. But this is the best thing they can do, is have a narrative that's something to get you in week to week. And that is what will get people back in to view this franchise. But this has been the Flatback 3. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube, and we will see you soon. Bye.